Hey Jess, thanks for joining us. So I was going to ask you a question. What's the biggest misconception agencies have about their databases?
Well, big question, goes a long way, and I think that today's video will talk about database. For me, is a lot of businesses run it, but a lot of businesses who actually get it right and follow through is another question or another theory altogether. For me, when you think about database, for me it's ultimately about having a relationship-based model where we're being someone's agent before they actually need an agent. And I see this time and time again when I go into a lot of real estate businesses, and very quickly I can work out how reactive they are just by asking them a few questions about where they stand in terms of, are they constantly going in competing against business against their competition? What does their database communication platform look like? So if I was a homeowner living in their suburb and I'm not thinking of selling my home in the next 12 months, what is the experience going to look like for me as that homeowner? Most often than not, most agencies who just end up falling into this catch and kill mentality don't build this ongoing relationship with these people when they aren't thinking of selling, and ultimately when they make that decision of moving from non-seller mode to seller mode, they don't trust anyone. So they're calling in 3 agencies and just choosing who's the cheapest.
If they're calling in whoever's the cheapest, meaning that your business is sort of acting in a commodity industry rather than actually in a sort of value add or relationship building space?
Yep, effectively, 100%. I always tell a little bit of a case study story about a business I worked with in Melbourne at 4 to 5 years ago. And I went inside, really good performing business, running about $4 million a year in fees. And we went in and they wanted to get better and they felt like they wanted to improve their database, and credit to them. And we went in there and quite quickly I found that they were losing about $1 million in lost commissions per quarter, and equated to about $4 million a year, which I see is very common in most businesses. What they're writing in commission is what they're leaking from lost opportunities that are sitting inside the database. So think about it like you've got a homeowner, you've got their phone number, their contact details, we know where they live, and it's inside our CRM system, in our database. We call it a database. We're asking our team members to go out each day and try and find more leads and more data, and we come back in and put it into our CRM system again. And that case study saw was quite remarkable when we were able to really minimise the leakage that business had by enacting a clear 12-month communication system.
Great. So can you give us some top lines of what that communication system looks like?
Yep. So very simply, and when I say this, it's probably sounds simple, most businesses fail to execute. So it's simply having a clear 12-month process where we're going to keep in touch via phone, via email, via SMS, by what we're doing here today, by video, and having a clear, consistent program that the business manages. What I see with the best businesses that I work with today, a lot of that's managed by what I call a campaign management team or marketing team instead of the agent itself. I think business leaders today are putting too much emphasis on agents doing all that themselves, and it's just impossible when they're doing so much other activities, and we're expecting them to do marketing and build out plans and communicate with the database, and we wonder why our leakage inside our business is so great.
Yeah, and it's a really different skill set working in the campaign mode versus relationship building or just really fundamental foundations of being an agent or the day-to-day being an agent. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I talk about this about a real estate agent being more dollar productive, and I've talked about this in many videos, and back in my own business years ago, we were able to increase the productivity per performer from $150,000 to $300,000 in the space of 2 or 3 years. Now you say, how is that possible? Really what it's about is pulling off as many activities as you can from your sales team, handing them on to a campaign management team, having a framework of how that's costed out to make sure your team members or your salespeople can actually be dollar productive and sit in lounge rooms and list and sell properties, what you employ them to do. We don't employ people to do marketing and build out plans because they haven't got that skill set. I think that's where businesses are inconsistent. They end up losing team members to the competition.
So if you were going to give one piece of advice to a real estate leader on their database management, what would it be?
First thing I always say is go and look at your leakage. That's the first thing I do inside a business. If I step in business, let's look at your leakage. Because if you think about it, when I tell a leader that you're losing $1 million per quarter in commission, it's the first bit of eye-opener to say, well, okay, we want to take control of this and get better at it. I think then we allow ourselves an opportunity to, okay, let's get clear on the framework and measure it and track it. But we've got to be able to hold our team to that. But I think ultimately the last thing I'll say is, as a leader, you've got to be able to show your team the value of what it will mean for them. Most leaders will want to almost like micromanage their team members and say, you've got to do this to get that. I think if we sell the value, build out a proper communication system, and we do that consistently, do we all agree as a team that's going to equate to more listings and more business? And if we're highly more likely to see the value of it, they're highly more likely to buy into what you want around the accountability piece.